As a cultural business coach, your job is all about bridging cultural gaps. Can you tell us about what you do and how you help people and businesses, figure out the cultural scene in Indonesia?
Well, people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so when you relocate from your culture into a new culture, you don't know or you don't understand the differences until things start to respond differently or things start to happen. And so what I can do is that I can warn them about this might be a problem area. I can explain to them why the reaction is the way it is, or I could suggest to them like what could be the possible bridge in order to go through this situation. So by talking to somebody like me, I can share with them over a few hours what it's taken me decades to understand.
Yeah. And what are actually the most common misconception that expatriates have about, business in Indonesia?
It's easy.
Yeah. It's not.
It's not easy. I mean, not that business is easy in any country.
Yeah.
It's not. But Indonesia is full of bureaucracy. There's so many loopholes, so many things that you have to jump through. There's so many documents that you have to fill out, or policies that you have to comply to. And so I think it's time consuming, and I think a lot of people that want to do business quickly are going to be a bit surprised about doing business in Indonesia.
Yeah. While Indonesians are widely known for, their kindness, as an Indonesian, me myself, it is challenging for me to get an honest feedback, right? From my, peers, from my co-workers, or even subordinates, right? How do you think expat leaders can actually overcome this issue?
Okay. In many Western countries, the approach is quite direct. And I tell you exactly what I'm thinking, and you tell me exactly what you're feeling, and we're very clear, right? But in Indonesia, where an indirect approach is taken, the communicator often chooses to disclose to you what they think you want to hear.
Yes.
And not necessarily the entire truth that's expected within the business office.
Yeah.
So in order to combat that, or to encourage more frankness within the office, more openness, in order to change that behavior, you have to create a trusting environment where you value their opinion, and when they share their true opinions, it's either acted on, appreciated, or it causes change.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start to demonstrate that to an Indonesian team, that my opinion matters, what I suggested counts, my improvement is heard, then you start to encourage that behavior, and it starts a snowball effect, and you get more and more of it.
And, given that Indonesia is a vast country with 38 provinces, right, each with its own ethnicities and own characters, how should expatriates approach communication in the office, effectively manage the diversity of our culture?
I think many guests of Indonesia, or many expats that are working here, don't understand how diverse Indonesia is. And it's not just subtle differences.
Yes.
It's a totally different ballgame if you compare Bali to Sumatra, or Sumatra to Sulawesi. This is a totally different culture with totally different characteristics. So as a leader, you should understand that the differences are huge. You should make a point to understand that and adjust the way that you communicate and the way that you treat these people differently, because it needs to be a different approach. It cannot be the same approach.
Yeah. And then what do you think are the main differences between Western leadership and Indonesian leadership in a business setting?
Probably two.
Yeah.
Two of the biggest problem areas. One is the egalitarian approach versus the hierarchy approach. Whereas in the West, everybody is kind of on on a horizontal plane and everybody's opinion matters.
Yeah.
Whereas in Indonesia, it's much more of a vertical system hierarchy and kind of a top-down approach.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. But the other big difference is the way that people communicate.
Yeah.
And so in the West, you have a much more direct approach where I tell you what I think, you give me honest feedback, we correct it, and business is not personal.
Yeah.
In Indonesia, business is very personal.
Oh, yes.
And the sooner you understand that, the easier the transition will be, that you have to take this into consideration when you're doing work in Indonesia.
Okay. How long do you think it typically takes for a foreigner to actually understand Indonesian culture and settle and actually, implement what they know about this new culture that they are exploring and implement it in their daily life?
To understand culture is an ongoing lifelong journey, right? You don't ever get to the bottom of that, right?
Yeah.
How fast you learn and what you learn is so personal.
Yeah.
So if you make a point to understand a celebration or understand a ceremony or take interest in what's going on around you, your transition is going to be much quicker.
Yeah.
But if you isolate yourself and you want to recreate just like home with the location that you're in, your transition is going to be really tough because you're not exposing yourself to the situation that you're in. So it really depends on the individual and how proactive you are in that.
What would be your one advice to expat thinking about getting or taking a job to Indonesia, especially to Jakarta? What would be your main one advice for them?
You have to be open-mindful. You have to have an open mind and be flexible.
Yeah.
Be willing to compromise, be flexible. Ready for surprises. You're going to have some surprises no matter what.
Yeah.
But you have to be open to change. And if you come in with that type of mindset, not a really focused mindset, much easier.